Hello and welcome guys. Today I am going to start with the variables, getting to know and discuss about the fundamentals of variables in C++, and we'll start with the C++ tutorials project that I have built in my last tutorial on functions with arguments, and I have opened that project on Visual Studio 2017 Community Edition, and I will now start with adding a new item which is a C++ file by default, and I will name it, yes, you have guessed it rightly, it is variables.c++, variables.c++, and there is no default template, so I will use the earlier hash include statements from the other file, this file, parameterized function. Just copy and get back to the variables.c++ and paste it over there. So these are the absolute libraries IO stream, and I'm using the standard namespace for getting the input output stream cout and cout as in my earlier apps. So my starting line is again int main, and that is the entry point to any C++ program, and end curly brace. So within that start and end curly braces will be my application. So I have copied it on my clipboard, a series of cout statements to discuss what a variable, with some concepts in variables in C++. So a variable in any programming language is actually the storage space in the memory of a computer or any device, where this variable is representing a data and a label, um, which is actually the variable name, and the address of the variable, or the location of the variable, is the memory address to which it refers to. Now this memory stores a value which can be retrieved later, and since the location of the memory is just temporary, the information in the variables is lost on once you exit the program. So what's a computer memory? Now computer memory is analogous to a series of pigeon holes for postal purpose in a post office, which houses several post boxes in sequence, and each of the post boxes can be thought of as locations or addresses of variables, whereas the actual data within the variable is the physical postage. Now referring to this figure A, we can see that a variable can be represented by a variable name count sequence in this case, and its memory address, which are contiguous or a sequential progression of numbers, say 100, 100, 102, which is imaginary in this case, but each of these cells can represent 1 byte of memory, which is 8 bits. Now bit is a binary arithmetic term which represents a series of which represents either a 0 or a 1, and 1 byte is 8 bits. That's under binary arithmetic. So a variable's name, for example, a count sequence, is a label on one of these pigeonholes so that you can find it easily without knowing its actual memory address. Now this figure is a schematic representation of this idea, as I told, and we'll lastly discuss about the integer size. An integer in C++ takes 2 bytes on one machine and 4 bytes on another, but it will remain the same on either computer always. That means, if you start up the computer at some other time or some other day, it will always show the integer size to be the same. And for smaller integers, a variable can be created using the short type. The short integer is 2 bytes on most computers. A long integer is usually 4 bytes, and an integer without the keyword short or long is usually 2 or 4 bytes. Now the C++ language never specifies or dictates the size of each of its type. All it says can be represented as the following: as long is greater than or equal to int is greater than equal to short. And there is lastly the Sizeof operator in this tutorial, which gets the actual memory space that each of these types, like int, short, long, and a few others like char, bool, float, and double, occupy in that computer. And so we'll get back to uh, doing the rest of the tutorials. So I have got this first cout statement, and I've got a bunch of other output statements which I have uh, copied from a clipboard, and I'll paste it for the sake of saving time. And finally a return 0 to terminate my program. Okay, so right now if I run this application, it will give me an output which says the size of an int is 4 bytes, short 2 bytes, long 4 bytes, char is 1 byte, float is 4 bytes, bool is 1 byte, and double is 8 bytes. So char is just a representation of a single character, which is alphanumeric or any other special character, and float is a representation of decimals, and bool is either true or false logic, and double is a very large value of integer, so it holds 8 bytes. So that's all for today, and thanks for watching. If you like my video, put your comments and likes and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.